Oh, wow. Um, so it's just me. It's just me. We're doing solo podcasting today. You know why? Because Snooky is sleeping. It's very early in the evening, and he is sleeping because this funny guy hasn't slept in days. And I'm sure he'll tell us more about that when he comes back in hopefully soon. Um, but as of right now, indefinitely sleeping. And so it's just me. And I was so unbelievably bored that I had to come on here and talk to myself because we haven't told anyone else about the podcast, so I can't invite anyone on here yet. Um, but I don't know what I'm doing because I have to talk to myself. I'm over here rubbing my hands back and forth. So alone, so undubiously alone. I'm like I'm like a bee with no hive. I'm just a lonely bee. You think bees are predators? Bees are not predators. No, mm, they're very menacingly looking. Bees they're aggressive but also humble. I wonder what it feels like to be a bee. I wonder if I'd have the urge to sting people, take my own life in order to protect myself. Why do they do that actually? Why would a bee why would you sting anyone if it means you have to die? Because that's a negative feedback loop. Why would you? Because you're not protecting yourself. You're stinging someone in order to protect yourself, but you die anyway. It's like a game mosquito. You don't know what you're doing. A mosquito's got a reason to bite someone, but you're just a wonky mosquito that stings people for no reason. But no, I like the idea of being a bee. It's, I think it's a very social lifestyle. You know how they do a dance in the hive. They do a little dance to direct bees where they're going, where the pollen is, where the flowering plants are, where the where those vegetables are exposing their pollen. It's an amazing process. No, there's lots of wonderful things in life that I think we don't appreciate enough. Like I just analyzed bees, the whole world out there of just bees, among other things in nature. You know, nature is one of those things, right? Nature is one of those things that it doesn't go down without a fight. For example, I live near the mountains, so um, the mountains are things that will be here long after I leave, and that have been here long before I arrived. The mountains and the nature um, filling up those mountains are things that won't ever go away. So I think everything in life is disposable. Almost everything in life, your job, your house, the backpack in my room, every single item that I perceive to own is disposable, and it can burn away. You can lose your job. You can, you know, friends and family can die, but one thing that will always stay, that will never go anywhere, is nature. That's why I think it's one of the most powerful things we have access to. It's the most plentiful and fertile natural resource we have and surround ourselves with. It is nature. Um, does oil is oil nature? Is natural gas nature? It's a result of past nature's decomposition. Does that mean it's still nature? Hmm. There's lots of questions. But if it is nature, if natural gas is nature, that's a valuable resource. Bees are a valuable resource. Man. I think the reason I'm talking about nature so much is just because of how much I miss the summer and the green forests and the fertile lands here. It's been very it's been like an Arctic desert the last couple of weeks. Cold, sharp snow and wind. It's been um it's been aggressive. The weather feels very aggressive. It doesn't it feels relentless. It doesn't give up. The cold doesn't give up. The sun is it does not exist anymore. It comes up at 8 and then it leaves an hour later, basically. I don't know what to do about it. It's always dark, it's always cold. Me and Snooki are doing our best to battle the weather by involving summer activities in our day-to-day lives and ignoring the cold or doing our best to ignore it. We live like we live in the summer, but to no avail. I never really liked the winter. I like the idea of winter, but I think winter is pleasant for 2 weeks or up until New Year's. After New Year's, everyone wants it to become warm again. Everyone expects spring immediately or flowering plants. But no, nature has other plans. See, the tilt into winter is just as long as the tilt out of winter. It will stay cold for another couple months. It's relentless. But I've gotten through it before, and we've all gotten through it for decades of our lives, and we'll get through it again. But this winter is especially cold, and especially, what's a good word? It's especially bleak. It's a bleak winter. A colorless winter. A plain winter. A harsh winter. Filled with potato soup and goulash and other fattening foods, just like in the war. Plain fattening foods. Famine foods. Scraps. It would have been a wild time to grow up during any of the various world wars. I know a lot of my family did. We grew up 7 boys, 3 potatoes. Not enough for everyone. There must be a fair idea of sharing and all going hungry. There was a powerful incentive not to waste food or other valuable resources. It must have been harsh, those winters back then, to think about how I'm living in a warm house and I have good means of transportation and activities. Seems incomparable to those times. Comparably, I would have been sitting in a cold house, no means of effective transportation, and I would have been, simply put, bored out of my mind. I wouldn't know what to do. The older boys would be gone at war, including my father. It would have been me, my sister, and the dog, Scrap. Obviously, my mother would have been there too, worried out of her mind for the four boys and her husband. Thinking, keeping them in her prayers, keeping them in her thoughts, with no assurance of their return. It would have been a fearful time. It would have been a time of reflection and angst. I would have spent a lot of time with Scrap, the dog, probably developed a passion for animals, as I most likely would have grown up with more than one. I was lucky not to go to war due to my youthfulness and young age. It saved me from those tears that the older boys would return with, those disabilities and those mental illnesses. I would have grown up to be more emotional, with better people skills and an unique ability to understand business. Those would have been tough times, but I think I would have come out all right. I would have opened a veterinary hospital somewhere in town, nothing too big, but I would have had my own clinic with staff. I'm sure it would have been a plentiful life. I would have married young, had two kids, and I would have discovered the usefulness of the radio and other forms of telecommunication developed. I would enjoy saltine crackers, potentially with sardines or mackerel preserved in mustard and other salty snacks. Hmm. I think folks like to romanticize too much about these times, the world wars, the romanticist era, going further back. Democratic, I should say early democratic France. Late periods in, let's see here, what's another romanticized era? In Europe, let's see. Well, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. People like to romanticize too much about the past. Say things were better back then. And maybe certain aspects were, but I think it's important to always look forward into the future. That's the only place we're headed. And it's the only place where nature will still be around. Well, at least hopefully. It does take a lot to destroy nature, but I think we have the capabilities of doing it. I couldn't imagine a world without nature, because nature is romanticized as well. Maybe even overly romanticized. People read books, draw paintings, imagine these fertile lands, these past lands. But nature is relentless. As I look out my window, I only see bleak snow. And I would explode if I was out there for more than, say, 47 minutes. I would freeze up into an ice block. And someone would have to scrape me off of the pavement with a crowbar, put me into a wheelbarrow. Obviously not a simple task, given that I do not fill the shape of that wheelbarrow anymore. I'm very rigid from the cold. So nature is relentless. And people like to think it's forgiving. It's fertile. It's kind. They're incorrect. Nature is a continuous loop. And I think we're beating this loop. We're out of the loop. We don't think about what percent of people that die decompose in a natural manner. I believe it's a very small percent of people anymore that truly decompose. Most get burned. Some get buried. However, a coffin, excuse me, I had to burp. Some get buried in a coffin. However, this still prevents them from naturally decomposing into the earth. Some, rare, get packed up into a seed pod, tree root bag, and turn themselves into trees. These are more natural forms of burial, however, not completely. I believe humans, I think we've beat nature. I think we've done it. In a lot of ways, if you live in the city, storms may still creep in, but we're sheltered. I think we're almost beating nature. Anyway, I better wrap this thing up. There's no possible way I can do 40 minutes of this. I am already going insane. And I still have to go choose a funny cat image to accompany me here on this journey. I hope everyone enjoyed this discussion. Welcome to my mind. And hopefully, I pray thy God that Snooki returns very, very soon. Okay, bye!